I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, I've been meaning to do a blog on this for a while now. It's been in my docket here for a bit, but 6 months ago or so, as you guys know, the socialist liberals, Trudeau, made a big press announcement saying that all of a sudden we're going to get into home building for Canadians because, of course, we've got a housing crisis going on here, affordability crisis, not enough homes. 6 months prior to that, of course, throughout his 9-year tenure, Trudeau was saying that housing isn't our responsibility, and technically it's not. It's a provincial issue. But of course, you know, the Liberals are been decimated here in the polls. They really should be calling an election this fall, but they probably won't. But they're going to be exiting and losing government here come next fall. The Conservatives are going to pretty much clean the floor with them, as they should. But all of a sudden now, the Liberals, of course, they're going to promise everything for people now to try and get some votes here. They're on, borrowed time pretty much. So it was, if you saw the press conference on X, on Twitter, and they were talking about it on the news, ridiculing it pretty good. I mean, Trudeau did the little press conference with his housing minister there, Sean Fraser, who always seems a little odd to me as well. He always has that kind of grimace on his face. I don't know, maybe his conscience is catching up with him and starting to think, these lies we're putting out all the time are maybe starting to bother him. I don't know. But the funniest part was that they were making fun of on the social media was, Trudeau, these were his exact words. We know that there's a housing crisis in Canada. The math is simple. We rolled up our sleeves and went to work. The math was simple. We got a cocktail napkin here on a Friday afternoon. And, we need to build 3 million homes over the next 10 years, just 3 million, no big problem. And that will solve everyone's problems. So the math was simple. So, if you guys think that 3 million homes are going to be built by the government, of all things, the government getting into housing development, that has a disaster written all over it, which I'll get to in a minute. You also probably believe in Santa Claus. It's not going to happen. We'll see. I'll be long retired, I think, before we even see 500,000 homes built. But let's see how it goes, and we'll keep an eye on it. But we've got an update now. Last week, the government announced 42 underutilized government-owned, because all these homes that they're going to build, folks, are going to be on Crown land. So they're going to be leasehold land with Trudeau and the Liberals, whoever's in power, as your landlord. They are going to be the master leaseholder. And I'm going to get into leasehold. I've done lots of blogs over the years on why I have never sold leasehold property in my life to a client, ever. I just will not do it because it's an inferior product. It's glorified renting is all it is, because you don't own the dirt. Now, I've sold lots of leasehold land. One of my biggest clients, as I've told you guys, is a couple of large trustees. I've probably sold a dozen leasehold properties over the last 10 years for them. And then every year or two, I'll get a client that calls me up. I didn't sell them the home, that want to sell a leasehold property. And I'll just get to that in a minute, but I've done lots of blogs in my archives on the pitfalls of leasehold land. You just don't get any appreciation on it. Tough to sell. It's just not good. Don't buy it. Stay away from it. And this stuff down the road, if it ever gets built, stay away from too. It is not worth it. So they announced 42 sites across Canada. Only 2 of them are in the Lower Mainland, because we don't have any Crown land here in the Lower Mainland, and we don't have any Crown land really to speak of in Vancouver. There was 1 site, as I'll go through. But I think 5 of them were abandoned Canadian Armed Forces bases. So those will be great. Those will be out in some rural area somewhere. But there was only 2 sites in the Lower Mainland. One was a small lot out in Port Moody. I think it was a Canada Post sorting facility of some sort. And then the other one is in Vancouver. It's in Mount Pleasant. It's at 125 East 10th near Quebec. I know this building. It's a Canada Services building. It's a large lot. And hey, pretty good location, just off Main Street, just east of Main on East 10th. I've sold condos in that area. So that is the one spot that they might be able to build 300, 400 leasehold properties here. But when that's going to be, I wouldn't hold your breath on that. 5, 10 years down the road, who knows? So let's just discuss it a little bit here and what I see the pitfalls with this. of this one site here that they're going to build. So first off, the government's going to get into home development, but of course they're going to have to contract the actual construction work out to developers, established developers like a Beaux-Arts or an Ani or a Cressy or whoever else they can get to build these homes. Now, I've often said, when you're dealing with the government, when developers are dealing with government, whether it's the city of Vancouver or the province, or in this case, the federal government, who do you think the smartest guy in the room is when they're doing the negotiating? I can tell you right now, it's not the government. These developers are smart. They're business people. They know how to make money. They know what they have to charge or what they need to quote to make it worth their while. They are going to take advantage of the government at every single corner. They're smart. The government is not. I don't think I need to explain any more than that, guys. But, it's on leasehold land here. So leasehold land, just in a nutshell, watch some of my older blogs on that. Leasehold land, for the most part, there's three types. It's either owned by the city of Vancouver. There's some stuff in South Falls Creek that I've sold that's owned by the city of Vancouver that's got only about 40 years left on the lease now. There is native lands, so that's going to be areas like Tawasin, UBC, Westbrook Village, which I've also sold. And then there's some private leasehold land. There's a couple of big companies, private companies that own both in the West End, downtown here. They also own a fair bit out in Richmond that I've sold both. They've got many projects out there. For the most part now, leasehold land, of course, you do not get very much appreciation. And I've got the proof. I've sold many of them over the years. I'll give you an example here. I sold one about 2.5 years ago out in Westbrook Village. It was a 3-bed, 3-bath, large unit, 1,500 square feet, wood frame, right in Westbrook Village, about 15 years old. My seller on this, it was an estate sale. It was the family members that were selling it. It was their mother's home. She bought this home brand new 15 years ago, and just off the top of my head, I think she paid about $800K for it, let's call it, 15 years ago. I ended up selling this home. It took me about 165 days, multiple price reductions. I ended up selling it somewhere in the upper eights, minus commissions and everything else. It was basically a break-even thing. I had to reduce it multiple times. Very little bit money made. We'll call it less than $45,000, and held it for 15 years. Now, if this woman would have bought a freehold stratified property, let's just say in Kerrisdale or somewhere in West Vancouver, in Dunbar, Kitsilano, paid that same $800K, held it for 15 years, that property probably would have been worth something like 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 all day, and probably would have had a bidding war on it. So that's the difference between leasehold and freehold properties, stratified properties. The reason is that when you're buying real estate, what appreciates is the dirt. And I've often said to people, just look at your tax assessments every year. You'll see the assessment based on the land, even if it's a condo, your proportion of the land that condo is sitting on, and then the structure, the building. Well, every year, if in good years, the value of that property is going to go up. It's going to be the land that is going up. Every year, the building, as it gets older, depreciates. That goes down every year like clockwork, because the older it gets, the more replacement cost is going to be, and it's only got a certain life expectancy. A wood frame might have 60 years on it. So it's the dirt that appreciates. Now, when you're buying leasehold land, it's just like renting. It's just a glorified form of renting. You don't own the dirt, and so that's not appreciating for you, and the structure depreciates. So I've often said, do not buy it. Again, I will not sell leasehold land. I have to sell it, unfortunately, and I get buyers for it, but it's never a great outcome, usually. Very little appreciation when you look at it, depending on how long they've held it. So for that reason, I would stay away from it. The other thing is, I tell you that leasehold land, in my opinion, I've often said, should sell at a much, much bigger discount to strata, to freehold property. And a lot of times it doesn't. Take a look at the prices out in Westbrook Village. I mean, they are selling pretty much at the same price as what you can buy freehold in West Vancouver at for the same condo. In my opinion, in Richmond, a little less. There's a little bit more of a gap there for sure. I just sold a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1.5 bath townhouse I think I ended up selling it for about $680, so well below what a stratified condo would sell for, maybe 25% below. But in my opinion, leasehold should sell more like 40, 50% when you consider the anchor on the appreciation and you don't own the dirt. There's also not a lot of transparency with leasehold land. There's a master leaseholder. I could give you guys all kinds of horror stories with some of the private ones. When something goes wrong, there's no strata council or anything like that. They'll just hit you with a levy. Hey, we need a new roof. Here's what it's going to cost. There's no votes or anything else. Oftentimes, the companies that are the master leaseholder has their own construction company. So it's all inside jobs on these things. So it's nuts. There's no transparency with them. So, but they should sell at a much bigger discount. So let's see what this Crown land, let's see if they ever build on this East 10th property. We'll see. 125 East 10th. Let's see what the prices are. I would want to see a discount of 50% or more to get into bed with the socialist liberals as your landlord, buying Crown land, leasehold land. And I'm also really looking forward to seeing what the construction quality is on this. Because again, with the government getting involved in construction, or at least overseeing the contractors, it's going to be interesting. I can just see the stories now. People move in, I've got no hot water, my windows are already leaking after 6 months. It's going to be a horror story. But let's see what these sell at. If it's 20-25% below what Freehold is, you're nuts to buy that. I would want to see a discount of at least 50%. So in other words, if a one bed in the neighborhood was selling at $700, I'd want to see around a $375 purchase price on something same size in this Crown-owned, government-owned leasehold property. Because again, you just do not get any appreciation on the home. It's glorified renting. As a matter of fact, you'd be better off just renting. Why lay out 300, 400, 500K, whatever these are going to be, put your money in a S&P 500 ETF and just rent? I think you'd be far better off than that than buying Crown land. But we'll see where it goes. There's only one site that was identified in Vancouver, and then one out in Port Moody. So don't hold your breath on this for the liberals to come in and build you a home. And we'll have to see what the quality's like, what the purchase price is. But no matter what the purchase price is, it's leasehold land, Crown land. It doesn't appreciate. I've got the numbers to back it up. They're tough sells. When you're buying real estate, you're buying the dirt. That's what appreciates, and this removes all that. So we'll keep track of it, see where it goes. Don't hold your breath on the 3 million homes being built. I know most people aren't. It's a pipe dream. The liberals are going to promise anything and everything here now before the next election to try and gain back some seats, but it's done for them. It's all over. But we'll keep an eye on it, see where it goes. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. See you next week.